and leave it for half an hour or more. Break an egg into a mixing bowl and beat with an egg beater until it is very light. Add to this 2 tablespoonfuls of granulated sugar and 2 teaspoonfuls of vanilla extract and mix them all together. Pour over this 1 quart of milk and mix well. Strain the water from the tapioca and add the tapioca to the mixture and pour the whole into a pretty baking dish of some sort. Bake for 1 hour in a moderate oven. Serve cold in the same dish with sugar and cream or milk. This is enough for 6 people. Spoonfuls and cupfuls. Fill to a level spoon or cup unless you're told to heap it up. Scalloped fish. Cold fish, butter, flour, milk, pepper, salt, breadcrumbs, saucepan, fork, spoons, baking dish. Take some cold fish, say enough to make 1 pint, and pick it to pieces with a silver fork. Be sure to take out every bone. Make a cream sauce, as you have learned to do, with 1 tablespoonful of flour, 1 tablespoonful of butter, and 1 cup of milk. Use a saucepan or double boiler, and be careful not to let it burn. Add 1 teaspoonful of salt and a little pepper. Put your fish into the saucepan with the sauce, mix it all up well, and take from the stove. Take a baking dish and butter the sides and bottom carefully. Turn the fish into the baking dish. Have ready about half a cup of stale breadcrumbs, add to them a pinch of salt and a smaller pinch of pepper, mix them all up and sprinkle over the fish. Drop some very small bits of butter on the top and put the dish in a pretty hot oven to brown. This should take about 15 minutes, but it might take less or more according to the heat of the oven. Take the fish out when the top is brown and serve right away. This can be baked in little dishes or in large shells. Rice pudding. 4 tablespoons rice, 4 tablespoons sugar, nutmeg, 1 quart milk, mixing bowl, strainer or sieve, enamel baking dish. Take 4 tablespoonfuls of rice, pick out all the specks and dried kernels, and wash it by putting it in a strainer or sieve and letting clean cold water run over it. Put the washed rice into a bowl and add 4 tablespoonfuls of granulated sugar. Pour over the rice 1 quart of good milk. Turn the mixture into a baking dish. The pudding will be creamier if you use an enameled metal one, but you can use china. Grate over the top some nutmeg and set the dish in a moderate oven. Cook for about 2 hours. From time to time, as the pudding begins to get brown on top, stir down the top crust. Do this twice. When the rice is thoroughly soft, it is done. Rice pudding is better served quite cold. If you like raisins, get some of the seedless kind, measure about 2 tablespoonfuls, and soak them in boiling water for 5 minutes. Drain off the water and stir them into the pudding before you put it into the oven. The straw test. With a straw I pierce my cake when I think it's cooked enough. If the straw gets sticky rough, I must longer bake. If it comes out clean and neat, then the cake is fit to eat. Cup custard for 3. 2 eggs, granulated sugar, salt, nutmeg, hot water, 1 pint milk, egg beater, saucepan, grater, baking dishes, baking pan, mixing bowl, spoon. Break 2 eggs carefully into a bowl and beat with an egg beater for 3 minutes. Add a 1/4 teaspoonful of salt and 2 heaping tablespoonfuls of granulated sugar. Beat with a spoon for 2 minutes. Heat 1 pint of milk in a saucepan until it is very hot but not boiling, and mix with the egg and sugar, beating it again for a minute with your spoon. Take 3 small dishes, or 1 large one, that will be pretty and yet stand baking, and pour the mixture in. Grate a little nutmeg over the top. Put the baking dishes into a pan, and put the pan into a moderately hot oven. Before you shut the oven door, pour some hot water into the pan carefully, so that none of it will get into the custards. The water should come up about halfway to the top of the custard cups. Cook until the custards are firm in the middle and brown on top. If you use the little cups or dishes, this should take about half an hour. The larger dish will take longer. Use the straw test. Take them out of the pan and set them where they will cool. Serve them very cold. If you have no pretty dish, fold a clean table napkin so that it will be the width of the dish, lay it around the dish, and pin it together. Chicken custard. 1 cup thick chicken stock, 1 cup cream or milk, yolks of 3 eggs, 1 teaspoonful salt, measuring cup, custard cups, double boiler, egg beater, teaspoon, bowl. Some day, when the cook has some good, rich chicken stock in the house, measure out 1 cupful and put it in the top part of a double boiler. Add to it 1 cup of cream, or if you have no cream, 1 cupful of milk into which you have stirred 1 teaspoonful of melted butter. The cream or milk must be absolutely fresh, or your custard will curdle. Put your pan on the stove and cook your milk and stock until it begins to smoke. Do not let it come to a boil. While this is cooking, break open 3 eggs carefully and separate the whites and yolks. The whites can be put away in the ice box for future use. Beat the yolks with an egg beater until they are stiff. When your milk and chicken is ready, take it from the stove and add the beaten egg yolks and 1 teaspoonful of salt. Mix well with a spoon. Put the pan into the double boiler and set it on a hot part of the stove. Cook until the mixture begins to get thick. Pour it into custard cups and set in a cold place to get hard and cold. Serve cold. This ought to be enough for 5 people. It is nice for a hearty supper or lunch dish, also to serve to invalids. Brown Betty. 6 cooking apples, ½ cup molasses, ½ cup cold water, 4 tablespoonfuls brown sugar, butter, breadcrumbs, apple corer, measuring cup, baking dish, knife. Take 6 large tart apples, core them and peel them, and cut them into small slices. Take a baking dish, butter the inside, and cover the bottom with 1 layer of apple slices. Sprinkle a layer of breadcrumbs over the apple, then lay more apple over the crumbs, and so on until you have used all the apple. There must be crumbs on top. Measure ½ cupful of black molasses and a ½ cupful of cold water. Add to this 4 tablespoonfuls of brown sugar, and stir until the sugar is dissolved. Pour the mixture over the apple and crumbs, and drop 4 little bits of butter on top of all. Put the dish in a moderate oven for about 3/4 of an hour, or until it is nicely browned on top, and the apples are soft. Try them with a fork. Serve hot with cream or a hard sauce. End of Part 2. Read by Kara Schallenberg on July 25, 2008 in San Diego, California.